Good evening and welcome to Spiritual Alchemy Energy, the podcast with Julie. Tonight, I have a very special guest, Darlene Gudrie Butts. Gudrie from the Clarity Project. She's not just doing the Clarity Project. She's an award-winning speaker. She's a best-selling author. She's done a blog. Is a copywriter for websites and other projects, as well as a magazine columnist and a self-proclaimed word geek.
I am a word geek. I can't help it. I cannot tell a lie.
Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is fun. So I love that word geek.
I do too. And it's funny because when I was younger, the last thing you wanted to be is a geek. And now everybody wants to be a geek. So I love how things come full circle. And so whatever today people don't appreciate, I'm sure that 20 years from now that they will. So anyone who's hanging on right now in some way, shape, or form that they feel they aren't appreciated, they will be.
Right. So let's start, because you do so much. So let's start with your writing. And I think you probably were doing writing before you fell in love, had kids, became the mom. So you want to start there and then go into like your blog and your spinoff story from that.
Sure. So I have actually been writing stories since I was 4. I could read and write before I went to kindergarten. That was the benefit of being number 6 out of 7 kids. I wanted to do everything that the older children were doing. So, and we were all very avid readers and still are to this day. If you go into any one of my siblings' houses, you'll see books everywhere. So I've always been a word geek, always loved how you could just change one little word and would make a sentence perfect. And even when those sentences were only 3 or 4 words long, I still really appreciated being able to do that. And so I've always been writing. I wanted to be a writer. And when I was 18 and choosing my university, I was sitting around the table with all of my family members, many who were already married, and said, I want to be a writer. And they're like, you can't be a writer. You can't make a living from writing. And I believed them. So I went to school for business, ended up first year hating all of my business courses, only loving one course, which is psychology, which makes sense because I love people, and ended up finishing with a major in psychology, minor in business, and then became a financial advisor. It's funny how things work out.
Well, you had to have that experience so you could do what you do now, right?
I agree with that. And a lot of it was, I approached being a financial advisor as an educator. So I've been teaching my whole life. And so for me, it was more about really educating people on the proper financial principles for their home, and so that they could take care of themselves rather than me making a sale, which back then it was all about, we're one step down from a used car salesman back then. So I kind of changed the narrative a little bit. And then what happened was in 2008, I had started a business with a partner in 2007. 2008, everyone knows what happened, and our business imploded. And during that period of time, I had written a book called Lessons from the Depression, Eliminating Debt, which was all about me having a book for my profession. But what happened was it was the only thing left after everything imploded. So I had a choice either to rebuild the business or to take this book and try to market it. So I decided I was going to go after my dream. The worst time ever. We had just gone through this master horrible shitstorm financially. And I decide I'm going to market a book, which I've never done before. And so I end up marketing to best-selling status. Back before Amazon, where you could get 100 of your friends to buy it all in the same minute. This was actually going to places, getting bookstores to sell it for me, selling it to credit counselors and everything else. So when that book came out, I went to a conference in New York and met Mark Victor Hansen, who is co-founder of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Being a word geek, I have a lot of Chicken Soup for the Soul volumes. So he said to me, we're always looking for stories, always looking for stories. Just go on the website and they'll tell you what stories we're looking for. I said, okay. So I went on there. They were looking for cat stories and nurse stories, none of which had anything to do with me. And I thought, okay, this is probably not, because they had really gotten into niche chicken soup before. It used to be more general. So every 3 or 4 months, I would check on, see if there was anything. It was like never anything. So it ended up being my sister in 2010 was diagnosed with cancer, passed away in September. And on the anniversary of her death, we went to Run for the Cure for cancer. We'd done it as a family previous to that, but it was the first time without my sister. And I ended up writing a story about the last conversation I had with her and this experience at the Run with the Cure without her. And when I wrote this blog, it actually went viral. And I never had anything like that happen before. It went around the world. Thousands of people read it. And it makes me emotional just thinking about that because so many things happened around that. The first thing is the name of the blog was Finding Your Faith at the Run for the Cure. About 2 weeks later, I got a little ping. And we all have those little pings, right? The little voice that says, hey, you. And I said, hey, you, go on the Chicken Soup for the Soul website. I'm like, if I see one more
cat.
Yes. And I went on and they said, our new volume is going to be called Finding Your Faith. Send your stories in now. I knew right away I was going to be in the book. Finding Your Faith at Run for the Cure. They're looking for Finding Your Faith.
Right.
I knew exactly that I was going to be in the book. And so I found out there was over 1,000 submissions. I got an email that said I made the top 250. I'm like, no problem. I'm going to be in the book. So it was just like, I knew it. And then they said that I made the book, which is 101 stories. And I didn't know until I actually received my copy that I was actually the first chapter in the book. And what Jack Canfield says is they put the best story first because people go to the bookstores and they read that story to decide if they're going to pick up the volume. And I thought, what a testament to the relationship I have and the love I have for my sister, who was also a book nerd and Chicken Soup for the Soul lover, that her story got to be the first chapter of Finding Your Faith.
I bet she had a little bit to do with helping you.
It might have been, the ping may have came from her.
Not that you're equipped to write, but she might have just nudged it a little bit.
She's been helping me. She helped me it actually with Lessons from the Depression. She helped me with that book, helped fund it before she passed away. And she has been helping me ever since. So I know that she is in my corner, whether I can see her or not.
That's awesome. I love that. So you wrote another book, The Promise.
I did. So that is a completely different. So Lessons from the Depression, I wrote for a year every night between 9 and 11. I had small kids. I figured they were all in bed by 9. I set myself up for success. And they basically knew if you knock on my bedroom door, you better need to go to the hospital or you're in trouble. I'm writing. But for The Promise, this happened after my sister passed away. Everything, losing the business, losing my sister. She had such faith. I thought, I'm a nobody here in the land of faith in God, in the universe. I don't have a chance in this life. So it ended up being, I went to a church with my daughter. It was her boyfriend's church. We went, I wanted to be in the back. No one look at me. No one talked to me. I'm bruised. I'm broken. And of course they were the friendliest church on earth. It was like, hi, welcome. I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm so distraught right now. And it ended up, I got invited to a Bible study group, which I wasn't going to go to. Another ping, just go. Just one day, just go. That's what I heard. One day, just go. And so I went and I thought, again, I'll be just quiet in the corner and everyone else can talk. I've showed up. I've answered my ping. And when I went there, the stories of the women that were there, we were all battered, bruised, and broken. And it ended up being, I was actually uplifting for some of the women that were there. I actually brought something to the group that I didn't even know that I had. And when I drove home, which was about a 10-minute drive, this whole story just completely downloaded to me. I went home, opened my computer, and for 5 hours, I did not talk. I did not drink. I did not use the washroom. I didn't do anything but write. And during that story, the character, Sam, is actually talking to God and asking questions. And I'm writing the questions that Sam's asking, and God is answering them. And they're not my answers, because I can tell you I'm not that wise. I wish I was. But I would write down the answer and I go, that is so cool. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. I'm writing this and experiencing it as a reader at the same time. And I ended up publishing that just after Chicken Soup for the Soul. They almost came out simultaneously.
Wow. How cool is that?
That was a really bizarre, unusual experience. And I wish that I could go on my computer and type questions and ask God all the time, but it only worked that once. I haven't got the power back.
Well, you just have to connect. Maybe the right time, the right subject.
Yeah, I have other ways, but it was like having a direct conversation. Yeah. And that experience, I know that there's certain people who've had that experience before. When you have it, it is something that it's hard to explain what that feels like, because we feel so disconnected most of the time, even in prayer or meditation or whatever. You get to a certain spot, but you never feel like you're right there, one-to-one connected with Source, Collective, whatever you want to call it. And for that 5-hour period of time, I was connected one-on-one. And it was the coolest experience.
And I'm sure there was I can just feel like there was a flow of energy going through you. And it was like kind of like a high going through that experience.
It was, I experienced every emotion. During that period of time, I experienced everything. And I think that is a real lesson. Is sometimes people think that it would just be a high but when you actually connect with people and you can feel energy, you don't just feel the good stuff. You feel the bad stuff too. And I actually processed a lot of the grief that I had. I processed a lot of the anger that I had. So I actually felt everything, which to me was the greatest gift, because it made me understood that every emotion has its place and its purpose.
Right. And that's why we're here.
That's exactly why we're here. But we don't think that. We just want the good stuff. We're here for the good stuff.
That's beautiful. I love that. So let's talk about your magazine. Do you have a column?
So yes, I did it. Just the magazine, just through COVID. It finally closed down because of course, they were really struggling through COVID because it was a printed magazine with stores being closed and everything. But it was a really fun experience to be part of that and be able to have it. For me, I was allowed to write about anything, which is, as a writer, is such an amazing place to be. And so it's about beautiful life, beautiful home. So it was really about how to bring different experiences into your life that are beautiful, even if they don't look like that from the outside. So it was really fun to do. I've written various columns over the years. I wrote a money column back in my older days. So I've always been loved that position of being able to share little tidbits in a small little piece that people can take away.
Do you prefer doing nonfiction over fiction, or do you like them equally?
That's a good question. So my favorite book that I wrote was, even though everything that happened with the promise, was Lessons from the Depression, because what I did was I used my imagination, and it's called creative fiction because I actually made up this story with this family. But the whole point of it was to give people financial information through it. Right. So the family goes through financial difficulty, and it's through the help of their grandmother who went through the Great Depression that helps them get sorted out. And during that period of time, because it was a year, I actually, the family became real to me. And when I was finished, I actually missed them. I literally missed them. That's how much you get involved. And right now I'm helping a client. I'm ghostwriting a book. And I'm very involved with these characters right now. And so I love that idea that you can make them real enough that they exist for a while, whether it's just on a Word document, but in my mind and in my heart, they're actually existing. So I do like fiction, but I like educational fiction. I like to read fiction that I learn something, whether it's historical fiction or about a different country. So I like that combination of the story and the education together.
Okay, because that was going to be in my next question. What do you like to read?
If you saw the books that I have, because I'm never just reading one at a time. I'm usually reading 2 or 3 books at a time. If you saw the spectrum of what I'm reading right now, it would make absolutely no sense to you. So it depends on whether I need fluff because I don't want to think too much, whether there's a certain subject that I like. I love self-help books. I've probably read 500 of them, whatever the latest thing is. And I also like to read things like Chicken Soup for the Soul that have just those stories, which is one of the reasons why I really love Blue Talks, because it's kind of got that chicken soup where in the book, it's just one chapter and you're reading a story. So it depends on what mood I'm in. It really does. If you want to see in front of me right now, I have Eckhart Tolle's Practicing the Power of No, Mark Thurston's Discovering Your Soul's Purpose, Nora Roberts' Sea Swept, What Happened to You by Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, and A Course in Miracles. That's what's
those aren't like the Course in Miracles is not light reading at all.
But Nora Roberts is.
Oh my gosh. That's some dense reading right there. I just open it like, okay, where am I supposed? I'm supposed to read this.
I love that. I have a lot of Brianna Weiss books, and if you don't know her, look her up. Anyone who's listening, she's brilliant. And she does a lot of books where you can just open up a page and there's a little blurb that you can read. And I often do that with her books. What's my message of the day? And I'll just open it up to wherever.
I do that. I've done that with the Course in Miracles, but try to listen to the audio tape.
No, yeah. I would not be able to do that. I can honestly say that you're a better woman than I for even trying.
Don't do it while driving. Trust me.
There should be a disclaimer on it.
This might just put you to sleep.
I find with A Course in Miracles, I have to take one little paragraph and I can almost only handle one a day. I have to digest it and kind of really let my head wrap around it.
It's very dense material to you can connect with it, but it's like there's more there than what you're reading.
Yes, I agree.
Over and over again. So
love these questions. I haven't been asked these questions before. So
well, I try to be a little different. I love this. I got this from your website. Realizing dreams, overcoming challenges, finding faith, lessons learned along the way. There's a little bit more to that, but I love that.
Thank you.
So you're also a fabulous speaker, award-winning speaker. So what's that adventure been like for you? And how did you like doing it in the beginning? What happened?
So I am one of those rare people who actually love to speak anywhere, anytime. I've spoken in front of thousands of people and in front of 10 people and still have as much thrill. I don't get nervous, which I know it means I'm missing some sort of gene, and that's okay. Somebody asked me once, why aren't you a speaker coach? I said, because I don't understand. I don't understand the whole, what you do, because I think part of it is growing up when you're sitting around a table of 9 people and you're the smallest and you're the second youngest, you have to learn really quickly how to communicate, how to be concise, when to be funny, when not to be funny, how to get your point across, because everyone's trying to tell their story of the day. But I also think that I was, you start in grade 3 in school doing your speech contests. And I won every year. And never, even when I was in grade 3, didn't use cue cards, just love to stand up and talk about something that I was passionate about. So I think there's some is an innate gift as well, because I just love it so much. And I feel, and this may sound really odd, but I feel my most authentic self and the most connected to the universe when I'm speaking.
And when you're speaking, you're telling stories?
I tell it depends on what it is. But there's always a story involved. So the last Blue Talks that I did, which the last time that was the first time I was in person for almost 2 years, which pretty near killed me. So what I did for Blue Talks was, maybe you're asking the wrong questions. And I went through 5 major questions that we ask and flipping it, saying the question that you really should ask. And in each one of those was a story that really brought home why. So for instance, instead of asking about how do I make more money, is how do I make more impact? And I talked about how Elon Musk said when he started SpaceX, he had an 80% chance of failure. He was not talking about income. He was following his passion. And when you follow your passion, the money will come. So when you talk about impact and you go after the impact that you're here to bring to the world, you never will have to worry about income.
I understand that, and I connect with that message as well. I don't, were you the one that, I know there's a few people that do this, and I didn't see it on your website, but I thought we had talked about this, is focusing on what happened to you when you were younger and bringing that.
Yes. So this is something that is, I feel is working with my clients. This is one of the most important things that I do. So I feel like my mission in the world is really to help people understand who they truly are at a soul level and what they're here to do. Not what they were told they should be doing. Like I was told not to be a writer, not that society has said they can and cannot do. Is we are all here on a divine mission. And that's what the Clarity Project is always all about. And I feel like what trips us up is the fact that whatever happened in our childhood, those voices are the ones we listen to, not God, the universe, the collective voices. We listen to those voices. And so if we go back to what we loved as a child, before those decisions were being made, before we had responsibilities, before we had bills to pay, what lit you up back then when you were 7, 8, 9, 10? What did you do at night? Like me, read, drew, wrote, and played sports. Like really, I was really into sports when I was young as well. And basketball was my favorite, being 5'3", not the best choice of sports. But I was a pretty darn good point guard. I practiced foul shots all the time because I knew I only had 2 shots, 3-pointer and a foul shot going for a layup, because I got nothing else at 5'3".
I love it.
But what really lit me up was being a word geek, like finding those words or reading a really good story and getting engrossed in it. And so when I turned 18 and they told me, my family who I trusted, and they were really doing it to protect me. They weren't doing it to be mean or anything. They're just saying, hey, like, let's be realistic. You have very expensive taste and a writer's not going to cut it for you. But normally that starts earlier. And I think if everyone could be their 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old self, and they could embrace that light that they had within back then, if they could embrace that innocence before things started to happen that made them start to distrust the voice that heard, distrust the pings, distrust what they felt that they should do, and started going on the path of doing rather than being, this world would be such a better place. And so I think I really help my clients be rather than do.
That's amazing.
That's my goal.
What's that?
That is my goal.
I agree wholeheartedly. When I started my book, that was my focus. This is whatever you were doing as a child, this is what you should be doing as an adult, because it's your passion and you can follow it and you'll love it and you'll make money.
Yeah.
So same kind of message.
I love it. And I think that it's not only going back to what you remember, what lit you up as a child, it's also learning how to bypass those voices that have told you you're not good enough, you can't do this, who do you think you are? All of those voices. So I do a lot of inner child work with my clients and shadow work, because it's really having to get rid of those voices as well, because they might be able to immediately pick up on what did they love to do when they were 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
But then not have the confidence to move forward. So really what I do is I start there. I was like, let's get rid of the voices. Let's get you in tune, and let's get you like connected with your own light. Then let's put language around it. Let's get your message, like your messaging in the words that not only speak from your heart, but actually reach the people that you want to, because we all have different voices. You and I can say the exact same thing in our own language, and there are people who will not be able to hear me, and there'll be people who will not be able to hear you. And then there's going to be some people who are just going to love you so much, and they're going to love me so much, saying exactly the same thing.
Right.
So it's getting that messaging correct for yourself and for your audience, and then is putting a strategy around it. How do we get out there? Because so many people have brilliance that they just don't know how to go through those 3 steps.
Right. And so with your clarity project, you're doing messaging and marketing. Is that correct?
So it's really mindset, messaging, and marketing.
Okay.
So we start with the
Mindset as well.
Then we go to the messaging, then we go to the marketing.
Okay, so you've got some fabulous questions set up that, the clients can't answer these questions. So we'll just kind of go through, what do you do? I do me.
I try to help people answer the question, what do you do?
Hmm.
No, who you are, what you do, how you're different. No, I've got that wrong. So
who do you help?
Who you are, what you do, who do you help, and how you're different. So it's really getting clear about that. And the different part of it, at the end, when I say, how are you different? That is your why story. That is why out of the 1,000 professions that you had to choose from, did you choose this? Whether it is being a janitor, a teacher, a coach, a spiritual advisor, a medium, why? There's something that happened that made you choose this. So that is your differentiator, because people want someone who has passion and are authentically in the game, not for money, but because they cannot choose to do anything else.
Right.
How many times have you sat in a room with somebody and they barely said 2 words, but you're like, I want to work with them. Like you just feel it, or I want to be their friend, because you can just feel like they're just authentic and they own it and they know who they are, and my new mantra for 2022 is, the moment I need for nothing is the moment when everything will come. And it's those people who were in that space who know this is what they're meant to do, and who knows that the universe is supporting them and that everything will work out as it should. They're the ones who have that energy that pulls you in, rather than that frenetic energy that pushes you away. You're like, oof, have you ever stuck in a corner with someone like that?
Ay.
Right?
I'm kind of jumping around here, but you're an intuitive copywriter. So you do one-on-one with your clients. You may work by yourself on their work. So how do you do that?
So that's a good question. When I say that I'm intuitive, is I feel like I download the perfect words for them. So I will ask them a question and they'll stumble around it. And then I'll ask them more question, I'll ask them more. And then I'll say to them, so this is what you mean. And in one sentence, I'll encapsulate everything that they have rambled on about in 15 minutes. And they go, yes, that's it. It's also the ability to intuitively know where their next step is going to be. So I don't want to call them downloads, because it's not that direct. I just know where they're headed. So I'm able to help them put into place the steps they need to know where they're going. Even if they can't see it, I can see it.
Right.
So and putting language around that gives them clarity. A lot of people, you sit there and if you say like, I know where you're going, they'll go, well, geez, that's nice. I don't. And then when you start talking to them and you're able to put it into a sentence for them, that's when they start believing, is when they have the language around it. Right?
Yeah, overcoming that the naysayer voice and putting it together with that, building on that, and they get excited.
Yes. And how much confident do you feel when you go out somewhere and somebody asks you what you do and you can answer it in one sentence, clearly and concisely?
I wish I could.
Well, that's something that we can work on together. Because really, I have what's called the power introduction. And what it is a template. It's basically I help, and then it's your target audience, whoever you help, go from A to B. A is where they are now. B is where they want to go. And because is your why story. So it's very, very simple. As long as you're clear on who you're talking to, who your audience is.
The entire world.
Okay, so that if you're talking to babies, 5-year-olds, and 95-year-olds at the same time, someone's not going to understand what you're saying.
Okay, well, adult people of the world.
Well, see, we've narrowed it down a little bit. But I think that for a lot of people, and I hear this all the time, I help men, women, and children. I say, but who do you really love working with? Like, do you have a favorite client?
Who, me?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite client? Like, and you don't have to name them, but just like give me the aspects of that person. Like, who's your absolute favorite client? If you could just clone them over and over again, you would be happy for the rest of your life. What does that look like?
Oh my gosh. The one that comes to me, they're open-minded, and I have my judgment off the table, and they're asking questions. They come prepared. And we're doing medium work, and we're doing Akashic work, and they are getting the answers that they need answered.
Okay, so open-minded, curious, spirit seekers.
Or, seeking answers.
Okay, open-minded, curious, people who are seeking answers in the spiritual realm. Would that cover it?
Not exactly, but in that instance,
you said open, concise, and seeking answers.
Yeah.
So I'll help people who are open and seeking answers go from. Where do they come to you? How do they feeling when they're coming to you?
They don't really, when it's their first session, they don't really understand, how comfortable it's like, even more comfortable than you and I speaking.
But why would they seek you out? What's their problem that says, Julianne can help me?
I don't know.
Are they unfulfilled? Are they thinking there's more to life and they just haven't found it?
Sometimes, sometimes they need, one of my favorite clients had all kinds of questions for the other side, and they were different people and wanted to know, like, hey, why did this person come into my life? What was their purpose in my life? And then from there, it goes into, what do I need to do with my life?
So and I know you do a lot of different things. Is your favorite part of it being a medium and being able to connect with people on the other side? Or is just like, it's like babies, you can't choose one because they're all your favorite?
No, because my clients, I like working with the client, because when they get those questions answered, the light goes on and they're excited. And, it's like when you click with your client and you've got their messaging and they click and the light goes on, then it's like that. And they're going, they're on their mission now.
So they're looking for answers for their life that they haven't been able to find in a traditional way.
Yeah.
With being able to find the answers and have their light be turned on.
Yeah.
Transformation, A to B.
Yes.
Why do you do what you do?
I love people. Mostly.
Everybody loves people. That's the number one answer I get when I ask people, why do you do what you do? They say, because I love people or I want to help people. But why this? You could help people as a greeter in Walmart.
It's not as fun.
Why this way? Especially when you're looking at doing Akashic records and being a medium. Those are areas where, some people won't take, there's could be credibility issues. There could be areas where people think that, if there's a lot of Christians who don't believe in it, so there could be backlash. Why this area? Why this specific way are you helping people?
It's part of my soul.
Now, just before you say that, isn't answering because it's part of my soul way better than because I like people?
Yeah, it is. It's actually a vow I made many years ago. So.
That's even better because it's part of my soul and it's a vow I made that this is my mission in life, to help people by connecting with the other side. Now, so you just succinctly, and you can play back the tape. And
you have
your introduction.
But wait, there's more.
But you don't have to tell more, because you just have to do enough that people want. The whole idea of you introducing yourself is that people want to come and talk to you. Some people think that they want to introduce themselves to blurb everything about them. I mean, it was a mouthful, you telling all of this stuff. Does anyone really care I'm a best-selling author? No. Does anyone really care that I wrote a column? No.
Well, I do, because you're on my podcast and I'm talking to you.
But I mean, if I'm out at a networking event and I started listing all the things, I was half asleep. So I make it really clear. What I do is I help people really discover who they are and what they're here on earth to do, and reconnect with their light. And I do that by going through, and they can discover who they are, what they do, whom they serve, and how they're different. Then get the language around it so they understand and their audience understands, and then putting a strategy behind it so they can make an impact and income. That's what I do. Right?
You're very concise with your words. It's going to be a short interview.
But what I'm saying is that that's enough for people who get it, that they will come over and they'll start asking me questions.
Right.
And then we can continue the conversation.
Right.
Because they don't really care about all of this, the platitudes. They care about, can I help you? That's all we want to know. Can I help you?
Yeah.
And
it's like neon lights. It's like, open for business.
Yes.
This is my statement.
Yes. And then you can go into all the other different things that you do. But if you list everything up front, people are like, I can't hear you. I've lost you after the first sentence. So make it something that people care about. And all they care about is, am I your person? That's where you call out. I help. You call out to those people and you tell them you're going to take them from where they are to where they want to go. You make it clear. And then you tell them why, that it comes from the soul, not because I want to make $1 gazillion.
Right.
Then they're going to talk to you.
Right. Good Lord. I'm sorry. So you work with people one-on-one, obviously. And we just kind of did a mock. I wanted to do this mock thing. So we kind of already did that. How do you get the messaging of why should someone pick you over the competition? What's that process like?
So that process is really unpacking passion and purpose. So it's when you started talking about, when you said, because I like people. I'm like, no. If you went out and said, I help people because I like people, there's going to be 5 other people going, she stole my line. That's what I was going to say. Now what do I say? I like people. But to differentiate yourself, you have to bear a little bit of your soul and say, where does it come from? And I talk about me knowing my soul's purpose at a very young age to really help people understand who they are and be able to get the message out there as a word geek, and then believing that that wasn't the right route because I couldn't make any money doing it. That is where it comes from with clients. I don't want anyone to spend another day not showing their brilliance. I'm passionate about that. I don't want one more day of someone sitting there going, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. So-and-so said it's never going to work. I believe in this, but no one else believes in it. I don't want that to happen. So the more I can get the message out for people to tap into their light, show their brilliance, and be able to explain it to people and be able to connect with people, it's a good day.
It's always a good day when you can help people.
Yeah, but when I talk like that, rather than
Yeah.
saying I like to help people, when people understand where it's coming from,
Right,
like
right.
like, I have to do this because I feel like I'm letting someone down if I don't.
Yeah,
It's a different energy.
yeah.
And people tap into your energy more than you would think. Even the people that you don't think even feels any energy in the world, in the room, will actually be able to feel whether you're real or not.
Yeah, sincere and being truthful.
So
Um,
when you talk about differentiating yourself from the competition, talk about why you do what you do. Talk about the real story. The real story, not the glamorized story or the vanilla story, that's which I call, which is I love to help people. That's to me vanilla. But the more real you can be without, you don't have to air all your dirty laundry or anything. And that's why, you only get one line. It's not like you can go on and tell your story. But in just one line, like you saying, it's part of my soul. And I made a vow to do this work. That is enough. That's enough for me to say, okay, I want to talk to you. Like, what do you do? How does it work? How did that happen? Like, I would have 50 million questions for you. And isn't that what you want? Is that after you introduce yourself, that there's people who have questions for you and want to learn more?
well, that's why I'm writing a book. It's just so convoluted, and that's why we need to talk after the show. So, um, who do you help? Why do you do what you do? We kind of already went over that. So let's back up to your speaking engagements. It looked like you speak to quite a few women's groups.
Well, I do, maybe naturally because I'm a woman, and that's just the way it works out that I hang out with more women. But I think it really started when I was a financial advisor. I used to do seminars for women because I felt like a lot of times men would stand up in front of the room and would be really intimidating. And for me, I always try to bring whatever I'm trying to educate people with down to the lowest denominator in the room. I like it to make learning very accessible. And a lot of people are intimidated about talking about money, about talking about stocks and investing and all of those different things. And so I found that when I just had women in the room, they were more open to ask questions. They're, the stupid questions. If they were the number of times a woman would stand up and go, I know this is a stupid question, but like it's not a stupid question. There's no stupid questions. Because if you ask it, you're going to learn something new. It has nothing to do with it being stupid or not. So I really started to talk to women's groups and have women's seminars. And I think that's where it started. And then I just naturally gravitated. I feel like for a large part that women take on the voices of the naysayers more than men do, generally speaking. And I don't want to discount because I know a lot of guys who have dealt with the same issues in their childhood, but I feel like women are wounded to a deeper level, generally speaking. And so for me, going through that myself, knowing what that feels like as a woman, there's a lot of different aspects when you're a man going through the same thing. That I think it's really great that we have a lot of men are stepping up to try to bring the light to men. That I feel like it's just a natural progression to be able to help women. And because I know how they feel, I know their perspective, I've known what they're going through. I'm going to be 59 this year. I help a lot of women in their 50s. It seems to be the time when they can finally say, I don't have to worry about my kids anymore, except for they keep coming back. At least they come back as an adult. And that they're at the place where they say, what about me? What was I supposed to do? I got wrapped up in this whole thing of, get your education, get married and have kids and never thought about anything. And now all of a sudden it's like, what about me now? And so I think that's one of the major reasons why I gravitate to more female audiences. than generalized audiences is because I just feel that mission to really help women own their power, just own it.
So when you do, because you did the Fearless Women,
Yeah.
so what kind of topics do you talk about or asked to talk about?
I talk about so many different things. And oftentimes, I'll decide the day before. I will wait for intuition, and I'll answer your question, then I'll tell you a really fun story. So a lot of times I talk about things like, how to get over challenges. So I talk about what happened in 2008 with my business imploding and my sister passing away and losing my faith, and how I got through that with gratitude. I talk about how to really, change your perspective so that whatever situation you're in, it's a big thing for me. I have a book on the go right now, which is about perspective. And really the Blue Talks, changing those questions is really about changing your perspective. I help people change their perspective by the questions I ask, but you can actually do it on your own. So there's a variety of topics that I talk about along with messaging and marketing. Sometimes I'm asked just to talk about either the language of messaging and how to get the right messaging out, or how to do marketing in particular areas. But for one of the Fearless Women talks, each one that I did, I think I did 3, I did something different. The very last one, I was going to do the same thing that I did the time before. And because it was really fun, well received, great talk. I loved it. And the night before, I got a ping that said, you can't do that. You can't do that talk. I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't do that talk because it's like tomorrow. What am I going to talk about? And they said, we're going to give you one line and just go from there. So the line was, now I'm going to screw this up. I'd rather live a life. No, anyways, the line was something like, I'd rather do a few things imperfectly. I'd rather do 1,000 things imperfectly than do 10 things perfectly. It was all about living the imperfect life. And I got this line. It was a while ago, so please forgive me. And it's like, this is my bedtime. So please forgive me if I can't remember it. But anyways, that's all I had was the line. So I go there and I share with the audience. I'm going to tell you, this sounds really crazy, but this is what happened. I've been told I'm going to start this line and everything else is just going to follow. And I had the most fun I've ever had speaking in my life. I literally started with the line. The next thing came. I had the audience going. Everyone was laughing. There was people crying. And it was the most fun I ever had. There was no preparation. The only thing I was worried about is timed. You get 20 minutes, right? So my only prayer was, please let me be able to wrap it up in time. I just don't want to go over. So I kept a little eye on the time. But other than that, it was so much fun. And I would not recommend it on an ongoing basis. But I can tell you that if you can ever be brave enough to just stand up with a line and start talking. And I almost thought, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go up and say, okay, I don't know, someone throw out a topic. And I'm going to tell you some stories about that topic, because I figure by this point in time, I have a story for almost every topic you could think of. And I haven't been brave enough to do that yet. But for most of the times when I speak anyways, I only have points. Like, for instance, the Blue Talks, I had the questions, but I didn't really know what I was going to say in between. It's kind of like, because I had probably 5 to 10 stories that I could use for each section. I just let it flow to whatever was the right story to tell at the time. And it was really fun. It was really fun.
I don't really enjoy that kind of work. I did take a public speaking class. My children were in elementary school, junior high, and I went back to school and I had to take this class for college that I would put off forever. And he did topics and I got, I don't know, Nazi Germany. I'm just like, I know nothing. we had to do that, and I'm just like petrified, but I got through the class.
Well, that's a good thing that you got through the class. And I know, just like, I'm not a medium and I can't do that. We all have different gifts that we bring to the table.
Right.
And it's okay if someone else can do something that you can't do. And I think that's one of the things that people in general are struggling the most with is why can that person do that? Or why does that person have that? There's so much comparison going on. Social media is a large part of it. And the fact is, if you just own what you're good at and really concentrate on that instead of worrying about what you're not good at, you would be so much more successful by doing that.
But unfortunately, part of my life purpose is speaking.
Okay. So, but here's the thing is you are speaking. You are speaking right now. You have a podcast. I don't have a podcast because I just don't have the patience or the wherewithal to actually put one together. So you're actually speaking every week on your podcast. What's the difference? And it could be a gazillion people watching right now. So for you, you're already public speaking. So I don't know where the disconnect is on that.
Yeah. My message.
Do you feel that you're not getting your message across? Is that you're letting other people get their message across and you're not getting yours across? Or do you have something specific that you have a talk inside you that needs to come out and it just hasn't come out in a form that you appreciate?
We're going to have to talk. You're going to have to read my book and then you'll understand oh.
Are you worried about being judged by what you're going to say? What your message is? Is that part of it? Is that you're worried about how it's going to be received?
Well, yeah, frankly, yeah, it's very controversial. And what this basically does is flip everybody's beliefs upside down because everybody's been looking at it wrong.
Well, you know what? I feel like I'm akin to you because I feel like this is the way I look at it. And I can't wait to read your book and help. And in any way that I can help you in messaging it out to the masses, I would be happy to help you. I feel like we all sit there up there as souls and we all have these laws up there as souls, the laws of love, the laws of reciprocity, all the laws of the universe, all the beliefs that we have. And we're sitting up there going, do you want to go down there? Yeah, I think wouldn't it be really cool to go and feel all these feelings in human form? Yeah, I can't wait. Then we come down here and it's actually, as you say, flipped upside down when you become a human being. Then all of a sudden it's like, don't be so loud. Don't be so bright. Who do you think you are? Dim your light. You're not loved. Why would you think you would get this and not that? You're not good enough. You need to do more of this. You need to do. The soul is just supposed to be in its brilliance, right? And even if you hear the mission, the ping that I got for 2022 about the moment I need for nothing is the moment that everything comes. That's the opposite of what everybody thinks.
Right.
Right? It thinks like want, go, get. But really it is in that stillness of needing nothing that you have everything.
Yeah, it's hard for people to get to that place of stillness and contentness, and it takes a lot of practice to get to that still point.
Because we're told to do. Quit sitting on your butt and go off and do something. And I'm not suggesting that you're going to sit there in the lotus position and everything's going to fall in your lap. I do believe in inspired action. And you get that inspired action the moment when you don't need anything, when you're in gratitude for your life, the moment that you are still and you feel full and, and then everything comes. I have a really crazy story that I can tell you.
Okay. Let's do it.
I have a story for everything. So,
okay.
So I have a path that's near my house and I go in the morning, I do my meditation and then I walk as part of my meditations. So I'm a huge cardinal person. Cardinals are my sign. I have two signs, cardinals and dimes. Dimes started after my sister passed away, so I'm pretty sure the dimes are from her. And so I have really gone on this spiritual path of really trying to deepen my connection. And I decided to start going out and, asking the universe for a cardinal when I walk. And the first day that I went, at the very start of my path, I see 2 cardinals. Like, this shit really works. This is amazing. And then I thought, oh man, because I'm just at the start of my walk, it's 30 minutes. I'm like, it would be so great to see another one. And then I'm like, oh no, Darlene, you just got 2. Quit being greedy. Like, you hear the voices in your head, right? Quit being greedy. Like, you got 2. Is that not, when is enough going to be enough, right? So I continue on my pathway and I don't see another cardinal. So the next day I go and I say, I don't need to see any cardinals. I saw my 2 cardinals yesterday. They will always be with me. I don't need to see any more cardinals. So I walk, there's no cardinals at the beginning. And I walk halfway through and this bird is just chirping like crazy at me. And so I finally look up and it's actually a cardinal. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So then next day I walk and I'm like, I don't really need a cardinal. And I get all the way to the end, no cardinal. I'm starting to feel sad. I didn't get my freaking cardinal. Like, I need one. And then I'm thinking, well, that's against what your mantra is, right? I said, okay, no problem. So I get, just before I have to turn and I'm going towards the street, which after that point in time, you don't see very many birds. There's in the air, in the natural part is where I see all the birds. I'm like, okay, I don't need it. And I like breathe into it. Okay, I'm okay. I don't need it. Very last tree, there's a cardinal. I'm like, this is super cool. Next time I go, I don't need it. I didn't get a cardinal. And I'm really upset. So the next day, I did all of this work in my meditation to not need a cardinal. The next day I go through my whole thing. Not a cardinal in those trees where there's not one there, not at the very end. I turn to go towards the street and I look up at this tree and I'm like, those look like cardinals. They can't be cardinals. It was female cardinals. So I just saw a little flash of red. And I'm like, those are cardinals. And so I took a picture. I thought, there's 6 cardinals in that tree. 6 cardinals. I've never seen 6 cardinals in a tree, right? So then I'm walking home. It's another 10 minutes to get home. This 10 minutes, I'm going, oh, those weren't cardinals. And then I thought, it doesn't matter. For 1 minute, I thought I had a miracle. It's like parting the Red Sea. I had 6 cardinals in a tree. I go home. I look on my phone because I took a picture. There were 7 cardinals. They were all cardinals. And the 7 has such a significance. 7 cardinals in a tree. Never, ever saw it before. I have the picture on my phone. And every time I pass that tree, I just thank it. I thank the cardinals that are there in spirit and that I've been there. Because the moment when I did all the work where I really, truly didn't need a cardinal, 7 cardinals showed up in a tree.
That's amazing.
That's a miracle.
That's definitely. I get signs all the time. So.
But to me, it's the power of needing for nothing. Yeah. That's when I saw the 7 cardinals. The first time I went around, I thought I didn't need for anything and I didn't see any. And I had to do a lot of work to really I'm not going to be bummed out if I go through my whole circuit and not see a cardinal. And I see.
That's the point. Not needing it. And I get it.
And that's the hardest part is the not needing it. Because it's just like, I'm making cardinals appear. Wow, look at how powerful. Then it becomes all ego, right? And it's not about connecting with the universe anymore. It's about getting what you want.
Yes.
And that's when your power actually gets diminished.
Yes.
Which is opposite of what everyone thinks.
Right. And it actually works. It's like the law of attraction, kind of. So I want to thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And chatting with me and sharing with me and my audience. I want people to be able to get a hold of you and use you for your services of just helping people discover who they are and with their message.
Well, I would be happy. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Darlene G Butts, or go to darlenebutts.com. Reach out to me. Tell me your stories. I love being able to connect with people and just really help them take that next step of ownership. And it's so much fun. And I know that you probably feel that way when you're dealing with your clients. And when you see that aha, it's worth every moment.
Oh yeah, you can live on that for a couple weeks sometimes.
Yes.
It's amazing. I want to thank you. I want to thank all my current viewers, future viewers, and audio listeners. And please connect with Darlene. And good night, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Good night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.